Hello, my name's Lori Vann, and I wanted to take a couple of moments today just to talk a little bit about self-injury and dispelling some myths out there. And while I'll cover a couple today, more of them are covered in the books that I have written, A Caregiver's Guide to Self-Injury and A Practitioner's Guide to the Treatment of Self-Injury. So first I want to start off and clarifying what that means. The current term is non-suicidal self-injury, but it's commonly referred to as self-harm, cutting, burning. It's also scratching, picking, hair pulling in some instances, hitting oneself or hitting objects. So there are a lot of different forms of self-injury that are out there. It's not just the cutting that we hear about. So that's an important myth right there, that so often other books have erroneously used that term of cutting when self-injury is so much more than just that. But one of the other myths I want to address is that some people say, well, you know what, self-injury isn't as bad as substance use. And that's not accurate, because substance use or abuse is actually an internal form of self-injury. You are altering the tissue of your internal organs when you abuse substances. So for traditional non-suicidal self-injury, your scars are on the outside of your skin. But for substance abuse, it's on the inside, so you can't readily see it. And I would say eating disorders are also a type of self-injury because, again, you are altering the skin tissue, intentionally altering it. So that's one thing just to throw out there for consideration. Another thing I would throw out there is I hear people describe it as their friend. And self-injury is not your friend. Unless you consider a friend something that wants to harm you or destroy your body, destroy your self-confidence, make you have a lot of shame and guilt, and keep you in a spiral of depression and anxiety. Hopefully no one thinks of that as a friend. And the thing is that self-injury may temporarily relieve stressors, problems, anxiety, anger, whatever the trigger might be, but this friend will become an enemy, an obsessive enemy, where it interferes with your life, where you could be sitting in the classroom and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, I really just want to self-harm. I can't wait till I get home and I can do it privately. So self-injury is not a friend. It really does become your enemy. Another one I would want to address is that stopping non-suicidal self-injury is effective if you do it for someone else. So I will hear people say, well, I'm stopping because I made a pact with my best friend, or I made a pact with my parent that I won't harm. And while, yes, that might initially get you to stop self-harming or get your friend to stop harming, it's not a long-term solution. The thing is that someone has to stop self-injury and have it stick, and it's because they decided to do it themselves, not because of a pact, not because they might disappoint someone, but for it to really stick with that person, they're the ones that have to make that decision. They're the ones that have to say, I'm going to start respecting my body. I'm going to treat it the right way. And that's one of the ways that stopping self-harm can happen. So making a pact with someone may short-term work, but it's not a long-term solution. And the person also, as part of that equation, they have to deal with those core issues as to why they're harming in the first place. And just making a promise with someone doesn't mean that they're really dealing with those issues, that they've really not found other ways to deal with whatever those stressors or those triggers may be. And finally, you're not responsible for your friend's self-harm. That is their decision, completely their choice if they choose to harm. You are not responsible for being with them 24/7 and trying to stop it. They have to make that decision themselves. So I hope some of these thoughts have been helpful or insightful. And if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and would be interested in self-injury support groups, you can feel free to contact me and find me on my website at lorivancounseling.com. It's LORIVANN counseling.com. I offer teen girl groups 3 times a month, tween girl self-injury support groups, women self-injury support groups, and then caregivers of those who self-harm, a group where they can ask questions and be supported in how they can best assist their friend or family member. And as I mentioned, I do have 2 books. There's a caregiver's guide to self-injury, and that helps answer a lot of questions that people have, such as how do you react to it? What are the mistakes that some people make that can actually make it worse for that person that's harming? The 35 reasons why people would self-harm. And that's available on my website and also at Amazon. And if you're a counselor working with self-harm, there's a practitioner's guide to the treatment of self-injury. So I thank you for your time, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thank you very much.